Evan Hale never wanted to crash on an unknown world, but the universe rarely asked for his opinion. His ship shook violently as it entered the planet's atmosphere, alarms screaming louder than his own heartbeat. Smoke filled the cockpit, lights flashed red, and the navigation system died in front of his eyes. He grabbed the controls and tried one last time to stabilize the ship, but gravity pulled him down like a giant hand refusing to let go. With a final roar of engines, the ship hit the ground, and everything went dark. When Evan opened his eyes, the first thing he heard was the sound of drums, slow and heavy, like giant footsteps echoing through the jungle. His head hurt, his suit was torn, and his emergency beacon was broken. He stumbled outside the ruined ship and looked around. Thick trees surrounded him, glowing vines twisted around the branches, and strange insects hummed in the air. The world felt alive, but also dangerous. Evan tried to calm himself. "Okay, you survived the crash. That's something," he whispered. He checked his scanner, hoping for nearby help, but the screen showed something else. Multiple life forms. Large. Strong. Moving fast. They were close. His heart tightened. He remembered the last update from the Galactic Network. This planet was marked as unknown tribal territory. Outsiders are not welcome. That was the polite version. The real rumor said the tribes on this world killed anyone who came from the sky. Evan tried to repair the beacon, but the wires were burned. He needed time. He needed peace. He had neither. Leaves rustled behind him. He turned quickly, lifting a metal rod like a weapon. No one was there. Only giant footprints in the muddy ground. Deep footprints. Heavy footprints. Whoever made them had been watching him. Not from far away, from very close. The drums grew louder. Evan stepped backward until he hit the side of the ship. A shadow moved between the trees. Then another, and another. Dozens, surrounding him. He held his breath as figures stepped out of the jungle, tall with dark skin like polished stone, wearing bone armor decorated with feathers and glowing markings. Their eyes were sharp and bright, and they moved like silent hunters. One of them stepped forward and pointed a spear at him. Evan raised his hand slowly. I don't want trouble," he said. They didn't speak. They didn't blink. They simply closed in around him. Evan felt cold fear running through his veins. He had no weapon that could stop an entire tribe. His ship was destroyed. His beacon was dead. He had no escape. One warrior tied his hands with a strange glowing rope. The moment it touched his skin, it tightened and locked like iron. Evan winced. The warriors pushed him forward, forcing him to walk deeper into the forest. As they moved, he noticed more and more signs of danger. Bones hanging from trees, skulls arranged on the ground, strange symbols drawn in red paint. This wasn't a friendly tribe. It was a warrior nation. After a long march, they reached a huge wooden gate carved into a mountain wall. The warriors banged their spears 3 times and the gate opened slowly. Inside, torches lit a massive village built between rocks and trees. Tents made from leather, towers carved from stone, and fires burning in the center. Hundreds of eyes stared at Evan as he was dragged inside. Children hid behind their mothers. Old warriors whispered to each other. Everyone watched the outsider with fear, anger, or curiosity. He couldn't tell which. The warriors threw Evan into a cage made from thick bones. The door slammed shut and locked. Evan grabbed the bars and tried to pull, but they didn't move even an inch. He was trapped. He looked around for help, but there was none. He tried to speak, but the tribe didn't answer him. They stood around the cage in silence, watching him like an animal. Then the crowd parted. A woman walked forward, tall and powerful. She wore a crown made of bright feathers and her face was painted with glowing blue markings. The warriors lowered their heads as she passed. This was their leader, their chief. She stopped in front of the cage and looked deeply into Evan's eyes. Her gaze was sharp, almost cutting. Evan felt like she could see right through him, his fear, his weakness, even his thoughts. She spoke in a quiet, calm voice. "You came from the sky," she said. Evan swallowed. "Yes, my ship crashed. I didn't mean to enter your land." She didn't respond. Instead, she raised her hand slowly and pointed her staff at him. The glowing stone at the top pulsed with light. The crowd murmured. Evan felt his legs shaking. The chief stepped closer and whispered, "Tomorrow, you will face your fate." The tribe began to chant. Evan's heart sunk. He knew what that meant. He was certain they would kill him in the morning. There was no escape, no help, no hope. And yet the chief's eyes, they didn't look cruel. They looked curious, interested, almost conflicted. Evan didn't understand it yet, but the chief's true intentions were not what he feared. Not even close. Something far more shocking was coming.
Morning came faster than Evan expected. He had barely slept inside the cold bone cage. The tribe never took their eyes off him. Warriors guarded him in shifts, always watching, always silent. Every time Evan opened his eyes, he saw at least 3 spears pointed in his direction. The rising sun painted the sky orange, and the drums began again. Slow, heavy, too familiar now. Evan felt a knot tightening in his stomach. This was it. The chief had said he would face his fate today. He didn't know what that meant, but he was sure it wasn't good. The cage door opened with a loud creak. 2 warriors grabbed him and pulled him out. His hands were still tied with the glowing rope that burned faintly against his skin. He tried not to stumble, but his legs felt weak. "Where are you taking me?" Evan asked, but no one replied. Their silence was worse than shouting. They pushed him through the village. People gathered on both sides, watching him as if witnessing a ceremony. Some looked angry, others curious. A few looked scared, as if he was the danger. Evan didn't understand. Why would they fear him? He was completely helpless. At the center of the village stood a large stone platform decorated with markings that looked ancient and powerful. Torches surrounded it, burning with blue flames instead of orange. Smoke rose into the sky in twisting shapes. It almost looked like faces, screaming or whispering. The chief waited at the top of the platform. She held her glowing staff, and her crown of feathers shimmered in the morning light. The tribe stood in a wide circle around the platform, all eyes on Evan. The warriors pushed him to his knees in front of her. He felt the cold stone beneath him. The chief stepped forward and looked down at him, her expression unreadable. She raised her staff and spoke in her language. The tribe answered with a deep chant. Evan had no idea what they were saying, but the rhythm made his heart beat faster. Then she switched to his language. Her voice was calm but powerful. "Human of the sky," she said, "you carry the fire of your people." Evan frowned. "I don't understand." She touched the side of his chest gently, right where his suit's damaged power core was located. The moment her fingers touched it, the stone on her staff glowed brighter. "The sky fire lives inside you," she whispered. "It burns strong." Evan stepped back, confused and afraid. I don't have fire. I'm not a threat." The tribe murmured loudly. Some stepped back as if afraid he might explode. He confused him more. The chief lowered her staff. "You came here for a reason. The spirits told us." Evan shook his head. "My ship crashed. I didn't come here on purpose." The chief studied him with sharp eyes. "Outsiders always say accident, but the gods do not make accidents." Evan swallowed hard. "She actually thinks I'm some kind of chosen person? Or a weapon?" The chief turned to the tribe and raised her staff. "He has the fire. The fire we need." The tribe's chant grew louder, and Evan's fear spiked. He looked around desperately. Warriors, spears, torches, chanting. No escape, no hope. "What fire?" Evan shouted. "What do you want from me?" The chief looked at him again. This time her expression softened. "The mountain is waking," she said quietly, "and when it wakes, it will kill us all." Evan blinked. "The mountain?" She nodded. "The ancient machine below it, the one built before our time. When the earth shakes, we know it is alive again." Evan's breath caught. An ancient machine? Something dangerous enough to destroy a tribe? Or maybe the whole planet? He tried to make sense of her words. What does that have to do with me? The chief's eyes narrowed. Only the sky people can stop it. Only your kind has the fire that can silence the machine. Evan stared at her. Suddenly, everything made sense. They didn't want to kill him. They wanted to use him. They believed he had power, technology, knowledge, something that could save them. But he didn't. I can't stop a machine I've never seen. I don't even know how your world works. The chief leaned closer. But you are human, and humans do impossible things. Her voice was soft, but her words carried weight. The tribe listened quietly. She turned to the warriors and spoke in her language again. They lifted Evan to his feet. His hands were still tied, but they handled him with care instead of violence. Take him to the sacred mountain, the chief ordered. Evan froze. Wait, what? Why? She looked back at him. Because your fate waits there. The tribe began moving, guiding him out of the village and toward a narrow path leading into the deep jungle. The drums continued behind them, echoing through the trees. Every step Evan took added more questions. Was the machine truly dangerous? Was he really the only one who could stop it? And what would happen if he failed? But one thing was clear. The chief didn't want him dead. She wanted something far more terrifying. She wanted him to save her people. And Evan didn't know if he could.
The jungle around the sacred mountain was thicker and darker than any place Evan had seen so far. The air felt heavy, almost alive, as if the trees themselves were watching him. Strange, glowing insects floated around the warriors like silent lamps, guiding their path through the twisting roots and mist. Evan's hands were still tied with the glowing rope, but the warriors now kept a respectful distance instead of pointing spears at him. This confused him even more. Why were they suddenly treating him like a guest, or a tool, or something else? They marched for hours. With every step, the ground trembled slightly. Sometimes the trembling was soft, like a whisper. Sometimes it was strong enough to shake the leaves off trees. Each tremor made the warriors pause and touch the earth with their hands, whispering prayers under their breath. Evan felt every vibration in his bones. "It's the machine," one warrior finally said in broken English. He pointed to the mountain peak rising above the trees. "It is waking." Evan didn't reply. He didn't know what to say. He was still trying to understand why they believed he could help. By noon, they reached a giant stone staircase carved into the mountain. The steps were cracked and covered with moss, but the glowing markings on the walls looked like they were drawn yesterday. Ancient symbols, spirals, circles, and strange shapes Evan didn't recognize. The chief was waiting at the top of the steps. She stood tall, her feathers blowing in the cold mountain wind. When Evan reached her, she looked at him with calm eyes. "You will see the truth now," she said. Evan took a deep breath. "What truth?" "The truth of the machine," she replied. "The truth of why you were brought here." She touched the glowing rope, and it loosened instantly, falling to the ground. Evan rubbed his wrists. They were trusting him. That was either a good sign or a very bad one. The chief started walking along a narrow stone bridge that hung over a deep canyon. The warriors followed behind. Evan looked down once and regretted it. The drop was endless. At the end of the bridge was a massive cave entrance, shaped like a giant open mouth carved into the rock. Blue flames burned in stone bowls on each side. The air around the cave felt cold, unnatural, and strangely metallic. When they stepped inside, Evan felt the world change. The walls were smooth, not natural stone. They were made of silver metal, glowing faintly with energy. Strange circular devices were embedded into the structure, blinking softly. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. The ground started shaking again, stronger now. Evan's breath caught in his chest. This wasn't a cave. This was a facility, a machine, ancient, massive, and very alive. The chief watched Evan's reaction carefully. "You see it," she whispered. Evan nodded slowly. "This is alien technology. Very old, older than your tribe. Maybe older than your entire world." The chief didn't understand all his words, but she understood enough. "We call it the heart. When it sleeps, our valley is safe. When it wakes," she shook her head, "fire, death, shadows from the ground." Evan walked deeper and touched the wall. It vibrated under his hand, as if breathing. "Why is it waking?" he asked. The chief didn't answer right away. She stepped closer to him. "Many seasons ago, the ground began to shake. We prayed, we made offerings, but the tremors grew stronger." She pointed at Evan's damaged suit. "Then the sky sent you." Evan closed his eyes. Of course. They didn't understand science, engines, and ancient alien machines. They saw a human crash from the sky and thought it was destiny. He wasn't a chosen savior. He was just a pilot who had bad luck. But that didn't change the problem. The machine truly was waking. And if it fully activated, what happens when it finishes? Evan asked. The chief answered softly. The mountain opens. The thing inside walks again. Evan looked at her sharply. "What thing?" She looked away. "We do not speak its name. No one who saw it lived." A loud, deep vibration suddenly ripped through the entire chamber. The lights on the walls flashed blue light. The ground shook with violent power, knocking several warriors off their feet. Evan grabbed a metal pillar to steady himself. That wasn't a normal tremor. Something inside is powering up. The chief shouted orders to her warriors. They spread out, forming a protective circle around Evan. Evan stared at her in disbelief. "You're guarding me?" She nodded. "You can save us, but you cannot save us if you die." Evan's mind raced. He didn't have tools. He didn't have equipment. His suit was half broken. Still, he knew more about machines than anyone here. And he couldn't ignore people who believed he was their only hope. Another violent shockwave hit the chamber. Metal plates on the walls shifted, opening like giant mechanical pedals. Light poured out from inside. A massive door at the far end of the chamber began to slide open. Warm air rushed out. Air that smelled like old machines, dust, and something else. Something alive. The chief whispered shakily, "It has begun." Evan swallowed hard. The machine wasn't waking. Something inside the machine was waking. And whatever it wasn't friendly. The huge metal door continued to slide open with a deep, grinding sound, as if the mountain itself was waking from a long nightmare. Blue light poured out of the darkness behind the door, bright enough to make the warriors shield their eyes. Evan felt cold air rush over him, and with it came a low humming sound, steady, powerful, and alive. The chief stepped closer to him. "The heart opens only when danger comes," she whispered. Her voice trembled, and Evan realized this fearless leader was truly afraid. Evan forced himself to take a step forward. "Stay back," he said. "Let me see what we're dealing with." The chief nodded and raised her hand, stopping the warriors behind him. They watched in silence as Evan approached the massive doorway. Inside was a large chamber filled with ancient machines, metal pipes, glowing coils, and tall pillars covered with symbols. At the center of the room stood a crystal-like structure, pulsing with blue energy. Every pulse sent a tremor through the floor. Evan stared at it. "This is a power core," he whispered, "but it's unstable." The chief came beside him, her steps slow and careful. "What does that mean?" "It means the machine isn't just waking up, it's charging, preparing for something." The chief looked at the glowing core with fear. Preparing for destruction? Evan didn't answer. He didn't need to. The truth was clear. He walked around the core, studying the panels on the walls. Most were broken or covered with dust, but one panel still glowed faintly. He brushed his hand over the symbols, and the lights reacted to his touch. The chief gasped softly. "The machine listens to you." "It's biometric," Evan said. "It's designed to respond to living beings with certain energy signatures." He pointed to his suit. "My suit has power. Maybe that's why it reacted." A loud rumbling shook the chamber, stronger than before. Dust fell from the ceiling, and several pieces of metal crashed to the ground. The warriors rushed forward, but the chief held out her arm to stop them. Evan steadied himself. "We don't have much time. Whatever is inside this place, it's trying to break out." The chief looked at him desperately. "Can you stop it?" Evan hesitated. The truth was painful. "I don't know, but I'll try." For the first time, the chief placed her hand on his shoulder. Her touch was firm, steady. "We believe in you, Sky Human." Evan felt something shift inside him. These people had captured him, threatened him, frightened him, but now they looked at him with trust, with hope. He couldn't turn away from that. He turned back to the panel and pressed a glowing symbol. The room hummed louder, but the core slowed its pulsing slightly. "It's working," Evan shouted. But before relief could wash over them, a deep roar echoed from somewhere below the floor. It sounded ancient, massive, and angry. The ground burst open near the far wall, and a giant metallic claw emerged, sharp, glowing, and dripping with sticky black oil. The warrior screamed and stepped back. The chief raised her staff. Evan froze. A huge metal creature climbed out of the hole. Its body was made of shining black plates, its eyes burning like red fire. It moved like a machine, but its roar was alive. Evan's skin turned cold. This is what the machine was waking. The beast raised its head and stared at the tribe with a hunger that was not human. It charged forward, smashing stone pillars like they were toys. The warriors attacked, throwing spears and firing energy arrows. But the creature shrugged off every hit. It swung one massive arm and knocked 3 warriors through the air. The chief jumped in front of Evan, blocking the creature's path. She shouted a command, and blue energy burst from her staff, striking the creature. It staggered for a moment, but then roared louder. Evan realized something terrifying. The machine didn't wake to destroy the tribe. It woke to release this thing. The chief gritted her teeth. "Then we must stop it together." She handed Evan the staff. "Your fire, my spirit, combined." Evan grabbed the staff. Energy shot through him like lightning. His suit, now weakened but still alive, absorbed it and glowed brighter. The creature lunged toward them. The chief shouted, "Now, human, fight with me!" Evan stepped forward, heart pounding, fear burning, but courage rising. This was the moment he realized he wasn't their prisoner anymore. He wasn't their outsider. He was their only chance. And the real battle had just begun.
The metal creature charged toward Evan and the chief with a roar that shook the chamber. Its red eyes glowed like burning fire, and every step made the ancient floor crack. Evan gripped the chief's staff tightly. The energy inside it pulsed like a living heartbeat, mixing with the fading power in his suit. "Focus!" the chief shouted. "The staff will guide you!" Evan nodded, even though fear shook his hands. He had never held a weapon like this before. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't a hero. He was just a pilot who crashed on the wrong planet. But now, he was all these people had. The creature swung one of its huge metal arms. Evan barely rolled out of the way. The blow smashed into the ground, breaking the stone into shards. Warriors tried to attack from the sides, but nothing they did slowed the beast. Their arrows bounced off. Their spears snapped. "It ignores us," one warrior shouted. "Because it wants him," the chief replied. Evan's heart jumped. "Why me?" "Because you carry the fire," she said. "It was created to destroy sky people like you." Great, Evan thought. A monster specifically built to kill humans. The creature roared again and charged. The chief raised her hands and shouted a command in her language. Blue energy erupted around her, forming a shield that blocked the creature for a moment. Sparks flew as metal slammed against spirit energy. "Now, Evan," she yelled. "Strike!" Evan lifted the staff. Energy surged through him. For a moment he felt like lightning itself. He ran forward, jumped over a broken pillar, and slammed the staff into the creature's chest. A bright flash exploded. The creature stumbled back, screeching in pain. Evan landed hard, the shock vibrating up his arms. The chief ran to him, pulling him to his feet. "Good! Again!" But the creature was already recovering. Its body glowed red with fury. It roared so loudly the air vibrated. It leapt forward. Evan and the chief dove in opposite directions as the beast crashed between them. The ground collapsed under its weight, opening a deep hole. Rocks tumbled down. The warriors grabbed the edges for safety. Evan saw the power core across the room glowing brighter again. It pulsed wildly, reacting to the battle. The chief noticed too. "The core strengthens the creature." Evan's eyes widened. "Then we need to shut the core down, completely." He looked at her. "Can you hold it off?" She nodded without hesitation. "For as long as needed." Evan sprinted toward the core. The creature saw him and roared, trying to break free from the chief's blue energy blasts. The chief fought fiercely, her staff glowing with pure power. But she was tiring. Each blast weakened her more. "Hurry, human!" she shouted. Evan reached the core. His suit was almost dead, but it still flickered with faint light. He touched the panel he used earlier. The symbols glowed to life. "Come on," he muttered. The machine responded. Ancient systems opened like petals. Cables lowered from the ceiling. Energy flooded the room. The creature broke free with a roar that shook the walls. Evan typed quickly, trying to override the power flow. The core vibrated under his hands. The creature charged toward him, each step louder than thunder. At the last moment, the chief threw herself in front of the creature. The impact shook the chamber. She flew across the floor, her staff rolling out of her hand. Warriors shouted her name. "Chief! Chief!" Evan screamed. Her body hit the ground and didn't move. Evan felt something break inside him. Anger, fear, desperation, all mixed into a burning fire. He grabbed the staff lying on the ground. Energy pulsed through him instantly, filling his suit with new power. His eyes glowed bright blue. The creature lunged again. Evan didn't run. He swung the staff with all his strength. A massive bolt of energy shot out and hit the creature directly in the chest. The monster staggered and screamed. The core behind him responded, its light flickering. "Override complete," the ancient machine's voice whispered. Evan lifted the staff one last time and shouted with all the strength left inside him, "Stop!" He slammed the staff into the ground. A wave of blue and white energy exploded across the room. The creature froze. Its red eyes flickered. Its body shook violently. Cracks spread across its metal armor. Then, boom! The creature shattered into pieces of glowing metal. The room went silent except for the soft hum of the fading core. The light dimmed, then turned dark. The mountain was quiet again. Evan dropped the staff and fell to his knees. The fight was over. Warriors rushed forward. Some cheered, some cried. They lifted Evan up and shouted his name. "Skyman! Skyman saved us!" But Evan didn't care about praise. He ran to the chief's side. She lay still, her breathing weak. He lifted her gently. "Chief, hey, stay with me." Her eyes opened slowly. She smiled faintly. "You did it, human. You stopped the heart." "I saved you first," Evan said, his voice shaking. She touched his cheek. "Then we saved each other." The tribe gathered around them. Warriors bowed deeply. Evan looked at her. "What happens now?" The chief sat up slowly, wincing in pain. "Now, you are no longer an outsider. You are one of us." Evan felt something warm in his chest. He came to this world by accident. He expected fear, death, and loneliness. Instead, he found courage, trust, and purpose. The chief whispered the final words. "You came from the sky bringing danger, but you stayed bringing hope." And Evan knew this planet was no longer just a place he crashed. It was home.